To have your company on Arvos. Adam Peacock back for today because I didn't want to miss out on this. Gloves off with Bozza, as always, leading on a Tuesday. Mark Bosnich, hello.
Hello. Good afternoon to you, Adam. Good afternoon to K-Man and everybody where they may be around the country or the world who are listening in to SEN. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different show in terms of no more World Cup. We know that. But football seasons will be upon us very, very shortly. And, of course, this week we have Chelsea, who are playing Western Sydney Wanderers tonight at Accor Stadium, and Tottenham, both in town. Tottenham Hotspurs will be playing against Sydney FC. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and in terms of the Cove and what they've said. And on Saturday night, Chelsea will play against Tottenham Hotspurs. It'll be great to see all these teams. First and foremost, the local sides, Western Sydney Wanderers and Sydney FC. Both with Western Sydney Wanderers with a brand new manager. Sydney FC with a manager who took over last season, to see how they're going to shape up. And especially for a very, very similar situation to Chelsea, brand new manager, Xabi Alonso. Obviously, we don't forget his fabulous career, but also in his managerial career, had that unbelievable record-breaking season. First time in Bundesliga history that a team went through undefeated. 52 games that year.
Never losing.
Yeah, 53 games altogether. 52 games unbeaten.
53.
Yeah, 53. Yeah. and Roberto De Zerbi, who came into Tottenham, kept them up. So very interesting to see, especially from Xabi Alonso and Chelsea's perspective, what they start to do. Obviously, the World Cup players are not here, but how they start to play. Because especially with Xabi Alonso, the system that he had and the flexibility that he had with Bayer Leverkusen was record-breaking, as you say. It was something to behold. Had a very difficult time with Real Madrid, but there was a lot more to that than met the eye, because I still think if he was given the opportunity, he would have had them absolutely firing.
Yeah, we're going to discuss transfers, a bit about the domestic game. Italy still searching for a manager and in a constant state of flux. But, Boz, just on these games, I was out at a local NPL game on Saturday night, watching my son play. And Atia Waraga, who plays for Western Sydney Wanderers, young player, I hope he gets a heap of minutes this season because he's really dynamic. But I was talking to him, I said, you're nervous for Tuesday? And he goes, oh, man, I just can't wait. I see these guys on television. I just can't wait to go out and show them what I got.
And it's a wonderful opportunity. I mean, Stan Lazaridis, who I played with for the Australian Socceroos, and obviously had a really good career in the Premier League with West Ham, Birmingham City. He got spotted on a tour by West Ham.
That's right,
in
playing
Western
against
Australia.
Perth.
Now, I know, and we'll get into this a little bit as well, but I know throughout Australian footballing circles there's a little bit of a debate going on about the worthiness of these tours. But as I've told them, and I'll continue to say, and I also understand, because we'll get onto that a little bit, if for any reason we know times are tough for a lot of people, can't afford ticket prices, I completely understand that. That's no problem whatsoever. But from a footballing perspective, it's always great to have some of the very best teams. You could say Chelsea won the World Club Championship, but last season they had a poor season, okay. And Tottenham have been struggling for relegation for 2 years straight. But some of the most high-profile teams with some of the best players in the world.
You're testing yourself on a high level.
Yes, just to see where you're at, especially in pre-season, because end of season a little bit different. Because I know from the player's perspective, when you're playing for a big club end of season, it's sort of seen as a little bit of a hassle. It really is.
Yeah.
And, you are looking forward to having your holiday. That's understandable. And there's, less risk taken than there are at the start of the season. But start of the season, and I remember going on these tours while at the 3 clubs that I was at, you want to impress, and especially when you got a new manager. That's so important.
Your favourite trip?
Oh, there were several. Japan in 1993, with Aston Villa was outstanding. That was an outstanding trip. With Manchester United coming here, of course, in 1999. And we also went to Hong Kong, and we went to China, and Sydney and Melbourne. Chelsea didn't really go any real major tours. We went to a place with Claudio Ranieri called Rocca Pereira, which is approximately between Napoli and Rome. It was a village of about 300 people.
I've got a fair idea what you did there.
No, we worked.
You ran.
We did. We worked very, very hard. There's no doubt about that. And the only thing was, especially the first year, we went for nearly 3 weeks. On every Sunday, literally the population of the village doubled because people came to do a pilgrimage up this little hill, which is overlooking the pitch. But on Sunday morning, after you've been given the morning off, you don't really want to hear bells ringing and people chanting things, yeah?
I can imagine your reaction. Yeah. This is the time as well, Boz, it's very exciting for fans because they're waking up every day here in Australia or living it overseas. Yeah. about who might be linked with their club, who might be
Yes.
going away. Newcastle, it feels like it's going away. But 3 ones I want to bring up to you with you. So Morgan Rogers not here, of course, because he needs a rest after the World Cup.
Yep.
With Chelsea hijacking the move to Arsenal. Rodri apparently in the sights of Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid from Manchester City. And this one intrigues me. Vinicius Jr. to Arsenal.
Yeah.
If they can extricate him from Real Madrid, it's going to take a lot in terms of transfer money and negotiations as well. What's
also
more likely out of those last two?
Out of the last two, I would say
Rodri and Vinny.
I would say Rodri, and I'll tell you why. Because I mean, Vinicius Jr. and this is remember we are getting second-hand information, but he was the catalyst for the problems that occurred in Xabi Alonso leaving. So normally when managers make such an investment, they do ring previous managers, good or bad. Yeah, whether they're friend or foe with them as well, and find out about certain things. I think Mikel Arteta, after having such a brilliant season, winning the Premier League and being runners-up in the Champions League, I really don't think he'll want something to come in to really upset the apple cart at Arsenal. If he can be guaranteed of that, that'll probably be a different story. So I would say probably Rodri. I really do think that there will be a time. I mean, Enzo Maresca, ironically, who was at Chelsea until last season, he has been at Manchester City before, but there will be some at Manchester City who, after Pep Guardiola's left, they probably think, well, okay, enough's enough. Now it's time for us to go as well. And we also don't know, like Enzo Maresca's real plans. He might want to build a brand new young team. I would have thought, but Rodri he'd want to be a part of. But he might have just come to the point in his career where he goes, you know what, I just want to go back home, basically back to Spain. Yeah.
Here's one for you.
Yeah.
Manchester City, any chance of becoming post-Guardiola what Manchester United became post-Ferguson?
Well, I hope so. No, I was only joking. I actually left a birthday message for somebody yesterday who remained nameless, and he's the son of somebody quite prominent. And I was asked to leave, and which I did, no problem whatsoever. And he's a Man City supporter. Yeah. So the person who wanted me to do the birthday message, I said, "Can you say something tongue in cheek?" So I basically put it like this. I said, "Now listen." I won't say his name right. So I said, "Now listen. I know you're a big Manchester City supporter. You've had a wonderful time. Congratulations to you. But with Pep going, probably this is the start of the end of the empire. Now, you do have
Conference League,
a 2-year amnesty where you can change to the other side in Manchester because you know what's coming. All you have to do is look across the road. You know what's coming. It's going to reverse its way." So, and I was only joking, but sometimes and I started thinking afterwards, you never know because when somebody's been there for 10 years as well, it's a long time.
Yeah.
We saw with Arsenal and Manchester United, but their managers, both respective Arsene Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson, had been there longer. So that even makes it even more difficult. But 10 years is 10 years, and they would be so entrenched in the ways that it will take time. And of course, was one thing that especially Premier League fans do not give managers traditionally, well, not just Premier League, we just talked about Real Madrid with Xabi Alonso, is time. So, as soon as you get 3 defeats on the trot,
yeah,
like we used to have, players who were at Liverpool during their halcyon days in Ray Houghton and Steve Staunton, Dean Sanders as well at Aston Villa, and they tell us stories about 3 losses on the trot. It's like an absolute disaster. So if that happens, people are going to start saying, this, that, and the other. Yeah, well, so I think the Rodri one more than likely. Although it must be said, when Jose Mourinho first was installed, or was one of the major candidates to get the Real Madrid job, I did say to somebody, maybe he'll come in and maybe because, like with the Mo Salah situation with Arne Slot, remember I said if they can't sort it out, sometimes the big bods turn around and say, well, both of you can go. Is Mourinho's part of his job description, obviously his number one is to win, but is it also, let's just put it this way, to sort out the playing roster? Because the bottom line is, like I said, Xabi Alonso was doing well until that game, where they were winning, by the way, against Barcelona. I think it was in October, November.
Around that time.
After about the 70 minutes, he brought Vinicius Jr. off. And from then,
lost his
they
mind.
they basically won 2 out the next 8 before he was sacked.
Hey, what's it like in the middle of pre-season when you're looking forward to the new season, but all of a sudden you got this, I don't know if it's a cloud over your head, you tell me, that there's interest elsewhere. And does it detract from your relationships?
Yes,
does
of course
it detract from what you're trying to do to
prepare?
prepare?
Yeah, 100,000,000%. I've seen it happen before.
Fries your mind?
Most prominently with Dwight York. His head was turned by Manchester United before the 1998-99 season. And from that moment, he wasn't the same person. As much as and John Gregory at the time, he says, well, you got to have a word to him. I said, I am, but his head's turned. He wants to go. I said, I'm telling you, he wants to go. And he actually played the opening game for us against Everton away at Goodison, where we drew 0-0. And he was anonymous. He was basically anonymous. I remember him looking at me because I used to go over his place after a game, and we used to get something to eat or whatever. And he was looking at me and he said, "Oh, maybe this." I said, "No." I said, "Your head's all over the place, mate." And it has been for 2 or 3 weeks. In the end, on the morning of the transfer deadline, he actually rocked up at the chairman, the late deadly Doug Ellis's house, knocked on the door, and basically pleaded with him to say, "Please, can I go?" So
the answer?
Well, in the end, yes, because Manchester United said they would also, because normally these transfer fees, back then that was a record, that was 12 million. Bit of a difference now, like another 100 million plus from Morgan Rogers, right, from Aston Villa to Chelsea.
That would buy his foot.
Yeah, and normally they're amortized, I think that's the way you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Like obviously paid over the term of the contract, so it's 4-year contract, 3 million each year. Manchester United had offered the money up front, yeah. And
Doug went,
everyone.
"Yep."
Well, when you got a player who's not happy, and like I said, they asked my opinion, and I said to look, I'm close to him, saying, "Can't you do anything?" I said, "Well, I'm asking him. We'd love you to stay, of course we would, but if somebody wants to go, they want to go. It's kind of like in a relationship, right? If somebody wants to leave, they want to leave. There's no use sort of like, you can try everything you can, but then once it's to that point, if you turn around and said, "Boss, I really don't want to work with you anymore. Now I'll try everything. I'll try to make your favorite cup of tea. I'll make sure if you say, "Boz, I really don't like that jacket you wear," I'll change jackets.
I know,
jackets. But like anything, if you say, "Boz, can you talk a little bit less?" I mean, that's a big one for me. And I would try, but in the end, if I do all that and you're still not happy, then you've just got to hold your hands up and say, "You know what? Maybe it's better we go our separate ways and just remember the good times."
It just really sounds like you're speaking from experience here, boss.
Not really. I'm just trying to give experiences from that I learn. I like to learn off people.
Okay, different people.
Different people, different things, different strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
Yes.
Quick break on Gloves Off with Bozza. Back with plenty more domestic issues after the break. There's a few, as always, and get Bozza's thoughts on those. You're with Arvos, with Adam Peacock. Thanks to Red Energy, which has plans to suit homes right up to big businesses. redenergy.com.au. Gloves Off continues after this. Boz,
yes.
In the news.
Yes.
Out of nowhere, late last week, Christian Volpato got done for allegedly speeding over Anzac Bridge, or a couple of times on the night, and allegedly failing a roadside drugs test. What was your immediate reaction and the days follow since?
Yeah, look, there's always two sides to every story. Immediate reaction was it was a little bit disappointing to read what we read, but knowing from experience, there's always two sides to every story. And let's separate the things, because the speeding fines are not alleged; they are actually done, right?
Yep.
Okay, but they are done. So my first thought was to get done at the same spot within 2 hours was foolishness, and also I was very upset of whoever was around him, which I still don't know, because if that was you in the car, regardless of what, I would have said to you, "You're not driving, mate." And either that or slow down, because that's very dangerous. And I've seen that. I live in the city, and sometimes on a Friday and Saturday night, you see some people, especially down where I am at King Street Wharf, like doing that hooning or whatever. So I think, what are you doing that for? It's just dangerous. There's no need for it. If you want to be different, walk out of a nightclub with 5 girls on your arm. That's what I think to myself. The other stuff, I think it's inappropriate to comment until we get further information. And I said this on the Today Show on Saturday morning, because I know from my experience things can be twisted very, very, very easily. And until we got all the facts, it's inappropriate to comment on the drug situation. But definitely the speeding, no need whatsoever, especially in terms of the fact that he was, he did well in the World Cup. So no need for that whatsoever. But the other situation, I guess there'll be a lot more to hear from that. But until we get all the full facts, I think it's inappropriate to comment.
Okay, back to the domestic game.
Back to the action.
Yep. With these games this week involving Western Sydney Wanderers and Sydney. At the moment, obviously the A-League, there's the PFA are involved in negotiations, let's say it with the runners, the people who run the A-League, the APL, in regards to a collective bargaining agreement. I said last week that it was my understanding that there was going to be no distribution from TV money to the clubs. I've since had that refuted, so I stand corrected if that is the case. I back my sources at the moment, but there's a bit of toing and froing about where that's going to land. So if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be shot down from the sky and totally wrong, but that's the information at the moment.
Good on you.
So with this week, is it in any way important for the Australian teams to do well, or is that too basic?
No, it's always important for the Australian teams to do well, and we'll get onto the fact as well because I've had some contact with somebody who's very close to, and was a member of the Cove as well to talk about because they've refused to participate in active support. But it is important. Well, basically,
dive into it now.
Yeah.
Quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, the majority of the Cove will not be in attendance. Their excuse is not their excuse. Their reason. That's the reason. That they think that the pricing is too high for active support, and they would rather support the team at Australia Cup games, A-League games, than these expensive showpieces. Now,
fair enough.
What I got to say is as well, but the promoters of this TEG, who I do work for, and I have done in the past, and I will do during this tour, are wonderful people. And all they want to do, and of course, yes, people are going to turn around and say, yeah, mate, okay, I would do the same. I would want to make a profit if I was promoting an event. It would be like me if I was promoting a musical event. But their main core interest, and they do this all around the world and very successfully, to bring football teams, is to bring the best possible football teams to Australia. And I believe that there's a huge benefit in that. Ever since I was growing up, it used to be the Socceroos, now it's club sides. That's progress in itself. Yeah, now it's the club sides, the local club sides playing against club sides from arguably the biggest league in the world. It's a wonderful measure, like you said at the beginning of the show. Now, Saturday night will be a sellout. I believe that these two other games between the Wanderers and Chelsea tonight and Sydney FC versus Spurs tomorrow night are not sellouts at stay. But another point that he made, a friend of mine, which is understandable, that during the week, being a family man, he said his son probably, if he goes to the game, at 10:30, for example, it's at your Acor Stadium, he's going to catch a train home and probably will be just before midnight on a school night. So I can understand that, and that's probably going to be across a lot of people's minds. But we've seen it every year. Last year, Wrexham was a success. 4 years ago, when we had Manchester United, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, these were big successes. People want to see these names, these teams over here. Yeah. But from the local perspective, and when I say local, I don't mean that patronisingly. From the Australian perspective, let's say that. Let's stop me saying local then, because local sounds a little bit patronising. It's a wonderful opportunity. I really don't see any other way, but you can put yourself in the shop window. Trust me, if you dominate in these games, like the Stan Lazaridis stories, they're going to start saying, keep an eye on this boy.
Well, Garrett Cole did it a couple of years ago, and then next thing
he's
signed with Newcastle.
Well, there you go. That's another thing. It really is, because that's what they do. When people dominate against these teams, people go, well, what's going on here? We've got the best of this, the best of that. What's going on here? Let's keep an eye on these things. Now, from the supporters' perspective, I've already given some of the reasons, and can totally understand as well. Times are hard for a lot of people right now, so you can understand that. But it is an opportunity to see the likes of Tottenham Hotspurs, the likes of Chelsea, and maybe I'm speaking from a selfish point of view, because that's the way I was sort of, brought up, and sort of that I felt when I was touring with Man United or Chelsea or Aston Villa. It's a wonderful opportunity to see these people in the flesh. Now, from all accounts, and this is from somebody here very high up at SEN, Chelsea have been absolutely outstanding since they've been here. They've been to schools, they've been doing camps. These are all things that they don't have to do. It's pre-season, remember? Yep. They've been here, there, and everywhere. Gary Cahill came on yesterday on SEN. Yep. So they've been absolutely, and I'm sure Tottenham Hotspur will do exactly the same. That is gold in itself. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and also for the coaches, for Ufak Talay and for Patrick Kisnorbo, to pit their wits against two managers. They can turn around and say, you know what, that familiarity, it sort of breeds a little bit of, I can do this. It really is important. I'm telling you. And we had the All-Stars concept, which just seemed to fall by the wayside. Sorry about that, guys. I burped a little bit there. I'm just telling the truth. We had the All-Star concept, which has kind of sort of fallen by the wayside. But I remember when Man United played against the All-Stars and Ange, David Moyes had just taken over at Manchester United, and Ange was in charge of the All-Stars. Well. No, okay, but it doesn't matter. You know what? 6 to 7 years later, Ange was managing against him in the Premier League. Do you understand where I'm making the comparisons and the synergy? And I've had this before, with people, and some people who are not around anymore, so I don't want to mention their names, trying to argue the other way. It's not just a money-making trip. They have got their price, which is understandable, because they're getting offered this from everywhere around the world. All right, especially pre-season, it is number one, especially when you've got a new manager, building team cohesion. All right, team spirit, getting to know everyone, getting to know how the club works, making sure you can have eyes in a different environment on players. And of course, with the players at the World Cup, there's a wonderful opportunity for the young academy players from these clubs to make their mark as well.
Like Marty Nicol
exactly, who was
the
born,
young Australian.
who was born in Sydney. So
We're
I
claiming
can't
him.
wait to see him.
Yeah.
Now, remember as well, when you're listening to this, I just told you what I told you in terms of, like I said, from my biased perspective, you could say that, but also from my football. I'm a football fanatic. I'm a football diehard, a tragic, if you like. So, I would go anywhere. So everyone's different, and I respect the right of what the Cove has said and so forth. But I will say this as well. I think this is a little bit of frustration in terms of what you started off with the whole, in terms of what's going on with the A-League. And that's something that we've got to get into, because I believe that the A-League is at a crossroads at the moment.
The invite is out to APL CEO Steve Rosic, who will come on.
Yeah.
He has absolutely said he's going to come on.
I spoke to him yesterday. He said he will come on.
And but they're obviously just picking through the
sometime
CBA.
Sometime this decade. No, it's only joking.
Stevie, if you're listening,
no,
more than welcome to come on.
He's a lovely man. He's a lovely man, but a lovely man or not, he knows the type of task that he's got ahead of him, and also the type of questions that he will be asked if he comes in front of you and I.
Hey, Boz, Italian football goes from strength to strength. Andrea Pirlo has announced he's no longer in contention to become, he's a legend, Pirlo, the next Italy manager, following criticism of his commercial links with the Russian betting company. Now, this has resulted also in Paolo Maldini apparently quitting as technical director of the Italian Football Federation just 16 days into his role. The hell is going on there?
Well,
what is wrong with Italian football?
Only an Italian football expert can really say from great detail. We can only say what we know from our vantage point from the outside. So I think it's time that I get into my black book and we get somebody who's an expert in Italian football.
It's a good black book, by the way.
It is, but we'll get them on next week. Yep. But from the outside looking in, it's exactly. But you could apply this to quite a few situations in football around the world at the moment.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on? And political situations and other things. So, but it's not a good look at all. And we know Pep Guardiola turned him down. Apparently, they were going to talk to Carlo Ancelotti. Andreas Pirlo seemed to have said yes. Then it came out with this flimsy excuse about the links to the Russian betting company. And now Paolo Maldini, who's an absolute legend and wasn't treated particularly well by AC Milan as well when he was there at the club, has stepped down as well. And this is coming back to what I say to people in the game, even here, that sometimes there's people, not all of them, but there are some people who are in positions of administration and power, and have been there for a long time usually, and they got their little cliques or this, that, and the other,
cabal,
whatever, and they innately do not like people coming in who have played the game at the highest level and voicing their opinions and basically putting a spotlight on things that should have been put a spotlight on years ago, and they disrespect them. They basically do things to undermine them because they know deep down, just like Paolo Maldini has done, the majority of footballers, because the overwhelming majority of footballers are just generally good people and really get to a stage where they've sacrificed so much during their own life in terms of being a footballer that they think, I really don't have to put up with this. And they bank on them walking away. And that's what happens majority of the time. That's why I say to people in our game who, I won't mention any names, but who say, I'm sick of this. And I say, no, don't be, because that's what they're banking on. Stay around. So I wish I could have Paolo Maldini's ears and say, look, listen, I unless I know the full story, but if not, could you not just don't give up, don't give in?
Isn't it funny?
Because it seems as though it's come back to the status quo. But we saw 12 years ago, Roberto Baggio was asked to commission a report, which he did do, over 1,000 pages, of the question that you just asked, what is the problem with Italian football? He identified
it on the log fire.
And apparently no one read it. I mean, do you know what I mean? That's coming back to my point, right? How would you feel if you're Roberto Baggio? Maybe now Roberto Baggio, okay, would be, from what I've been told, exceptional person, nice guy. When he heard that, he probably thought, oh, okay, and just walk away.
Yeah.
So you've got to be willing to have the patience to stomach it. And always remember as well, there is two sides to every story. Because it might come out that, I think the guy's name is Malaga, the Malaga, I think it was.
Irrelevant, go on.
The president, and who he was. There is always two sides to every story. I'd love to get him on and say, well, what's your side of the story? Because, at the moment, we're when we're looking at it, we're sort of thinking to ourselves, like, wow, what is going on? Yeah.
Is it like it is incredible, and it's across all sport, but football it's exemplified because it is such a worldwide. Here we are on the other side of the world talking about Italian football because the story is fascinating. That if administrators don't get it right, the things that we never see or hear about, we end up seeing them in real time evolve. If
they do.
the
I know
best
what you're
administrators get it done, you would have
No
worked with some great ones that we wouldn't even know about what they did.
No one's perfect, all right? No one's perfect. And everyone gets upset with everyone at some stage. But as long as the person's intentions are good, I believe that it will come round. Now, I've told you about the Cobra effect, okay? What happened with the snakes in India with the British. They had a great intention to have this idea where because there was cobras killing so many of the locals and the British soldiers, this was when British
partition.
India. Yeah, whatever. No, not even partition.
Not
before
even
that. No, when India was a colony of Britain, so to speak.
Before then.
So there were too many cobras killing snakes and locals. So the British turned around and said, "Well, what we're going to do is we're going to offer rupees, money, to locals and soldiers to get the snakes in."
And everyone
they started breeding
cobras.
them. Yeah, there were too many, so they said, "Listen, stop this." They let them go. There was more cobras in the first. So good intention, bad outcome. So a lot of the time that happens.
Well,
right?
I've got another way of putting that.
Yeah.
I call it the good person effect.
All right.
Good people can make shit decisions. Shit people can make good decisions.
Yeah, okay. But what I'm getting back to with the football, so I don't get sidetracked too much because you got me onto the British India story. Anyway, right?
Which you love.
Yeah, people deserve chances. There's no doubt about it. If they consistently do things that are not right for the particular organisation, then I'm sorry. There's no other choice. They've got to go. See you later. Yeah, and if they don't see that, then everyone around them must tell her or him that, to say, look, listen, unless you start changing your behaviour or your game, the way you're playing this, I'm sorry, there's no other choice. Now, we've got a very, you could say, a different situation with Australian football. It's a very, very difficult beast. We know that from the past. And we've talked about in terms of the constitution of the game here and where the power truly lies in terms of the votes. And from what we've been told is that the states have got, I think, 53% of the votes when it comes to voting in chairmen, CEOs, and so. So my theory, and this is what I've heard from both sides, is that I've met the people from Football Victoria. I'm going to meet the people from Football Queensland in October as well. Really good people. Spoke to them on the phone. But my theory is now this: the states aren't going to vote to have that changed. Okay, understandably, they don't want that.
Turkeys do not vote for Christmas.
Took the words out of my mouth. Adam.
Thank you.
Right. So it's time to start working with the states. We're a big country. We've got to start working with them.
Yeah.
Right. That's just my theory. Really working with them. And like I said to you, it's not. See, a lot of people think they sort of when they hear stories about, like I've told you stories before about Sir Frank Lowy and how dominant. There's not many people like that. So, and in the modern day, the dictatorship type of attitude doesn't really work. So you've got to get compromises. We may not be really happy, overly happy. The other side might not be really happy. Let's get a compromise, because if not,
somewhere in the middle,
you're going to stay in the status quo, and nothing's going to change.
I've seen it.
So that's what I'm saying. So now, rather than I was thinking to myself, say the technical director argument, rather than Football Australia employing a technical director, well, I would say to the states, okay, you guys are pretty much in charge, okay, and I understand.
They do have technical directors.
Well, then they should for each state, and so you decide the way you want your state to play in whatever. All of you decide. We won't employ technical director, but our coach of the national teams will pick players according to the style he wants to play. If we just say we employed Fabio Cannavaro, okay, after Tony Popovich, he will chair a meeting along with the CEO, Martin Kugler, and the chairman, and all the states, and say, this is the type of football that I want to play. This is the type of football I want. It's up to you now. Okay, that's what I would say. Then it's up to you. Because, or else you're just going to be banging your head against the wall. Because if you get your own technical director, and I understand that, going and tell the states, this is how I want you to do it. I know, I'd turn around and go, we're fine, thanks.
Because you know how the power structure works in Australian football. It goes to the states.
Yeah.
The state federations.
Well, the states are also the guardians of the game too.
Yeah, hang on. But at the state level, the vast majority of the power is held by the local associations.
Okay.
Not clubs or anything like that, but local associations who then kind of work to better football. But it goes up the chain and it gets high performance elite eventually. But then how does that filter all the way back down again?
Okay, well then, like I said, there's such a big country. Like I said, so let them do that. Let them decide that. Okay, we don't need. Then you can save money. The last financial report from Football Australia said they were in a little bit of debt as well. Which whatever. Save some money. You don't need then heads of football. They would just say you take care of that, the production of players. If you need help, we're here. You take care of that. the style you want to play. I would recommend that you teach your young girls and boys how to play several styles and in several types of way. And we'll pick players according to the national manager's idea of how he wants us to play on the world stage.
Text on the text line just before we go to a break. Hey, Bozza, I quoted the Cobras in India story to my wife the other day, and like a true disciple, she didn't believe me and went and looked it up. You are educating me and my family on history as well as the round ball game. Love your work. Dave from Brisbane.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. And I'll be seeing you very, very soon, Dave, because like I said, I'm going to come up and do a talk for Football Queensland in October in Brisbane. So I think the 9th and 10th. So I'll be there. Please come up to me if you see me on the street.
There you go. B-man in Brisbane.
Do not come up to me but if you see a cobra behind me. But other than that, no,
back in a sec on gloves off. P.S. Boz, did you know king cobras are spreading to different parts of India by hitching rides on some of the country's busiest railway networks, a new study has found. That sounds like fun. That sounds like great fun.
It's an amazing place, India, and boy, what a job they've done. It's, like, look at them. They're a superpower. Financially, militarily, fantastic.
Good for India.
Yeah, I thought so.
Good for Cameron Devlin as well. He's gone to Rangers.
Oh!
He'll be playing, in Old Firm derbies, European football.
Yeah.
They start this weekend.
Yeah, they
Scottish
do.
Premier League.
I was just asking our illustrious Marky Thompson over there, why do Scottish people always like to do something different? And you brought up the fact is, well, he did actually. They like to put one over on the English all the time, but I'm not so sure after a World Cup that's a good idea. But then again, thinking about it, they didn't last that long in the World Cup, so I understand. I didn't have. I've just got a bit of an insult there, but I'll take that from him. Yeah. So there you go. So look, they're starting very early. So congratulations to Cameron Devlin on his move. Obviously didn't want to stay and go through another season with Hearts.
Heartbreak with Hearts.
Heartbreak, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
But he got reward, and he'll be playing, like you said, in European football. Coming back to what we said before with Tottenham and Chelsea, both teams are not going to be in European football this season. I actually think that's going to, especially Chelsea. I mean, you watch Tottenham will be right up the table, right? But Chelsea, we thought were dark horses last season after their season before success in the Conference League and winning the FIFA World Club Championship. Obviously, the wheels fell apart when Enzo Maresca left just into the new year.
They flew off.
Yeah, but with Xabi Alonso and what he's achieved at Bayer Leverkusen, and the fact that they're going to, like I said, have no European football they can concentrate on, watch out for them. Watch out for them. And they've signalled their intent with the signings already. Yeah,
they have. 4 winners, Boz, for our competition, the Sydney FC Tottenham tickets, double passes, 4 double passes.
And just a last thing on that, like I said, if one can't afford it, completely understand. That happens. It happens. It happens to everyone in life at some stage. But if you can and you're doing nothing, please, and I'll say this, please come down, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a great way to see players that we see every week on TV, live in the flesh, and also your team, Sydney FC, and like Wanderers tonight, up against it. Okay, to see that there is not that much difference. We just make a few little tweaks and we can get even closer. There really is not. Come and see it for yourself.
Okay. Message 1, Preston's Rooster. My greatest Sydney FC moment is Ryan Grant breaking the all-time record for most games played. He is so humble, didn't make the moment all about himself. It's a testament to his character and loyalty, and unfortunately in this day and age, it doesn't exist with a lot of young footballers. Great
mine
show.
Was Ryan, yeah, mine was Ryan Grant's goal against Victory, so there we go.
There we go. Adam and Boz, my favourite Sydney FC moment was when Bjorn scored that penalty against Melbourne Victory 2010 grand final in front of their home fans. It was a great witness. It was great to witness. Dave from Central Coast.
What a good player he was. You remember him, Bjorn? Yeah.
Yep.
Wouldn't be on
right
your.
Back,
you remember? He wouldn't be on your speed dial for a night out. But I tell you what, as a player, yeah, he's the first man on the team sheet.
At the old stadium, my then 10-year-old son watching Del Piero score a penalty. What a legend, Phil, and has to be season 1 grand final, says Carmelo. All night, Dwight, Bozza's former partner in crime.
Well, I think that's highly disrespectful to mention crime and partner and myself in the same conversation. You can mention it. This is how good of friends we are. We can mention it in terms of Dwight, no problem. Actually, funny enough, it reminds me, he rang yesterday. I've got to ring him back.
That's another podcast.
Yes. No, we
Nights
say
out with Dwight.
Partner in winning things. Partner in winning things. We won 4 major trophies together. Partner in winning things. What the game's about.
Partner in going out at night.
No, because we were both very lonely, obviously away from our homes, Trinidad and Australia. Obviously, we spent a lot of time together. Yeah. And you don't want to be on your own. You like to be around people. And a lot of times, at certain times of night, the majority of people are at certain establishments.
Boz, I'll see you tonight. at the game.
Can't wait.
Looking forward
So
to it.
you're doing Gary Cahill and myself, right?
Well, I'm talking to you. I don't know about doing, but
poor-
I'm talking to you.
Poor Gary. Doesn't know what he's got coming, does he?
But done with gloves
All right,
off.
thanks for that answer to that question, Boz. We haven't got any time anymore for you, Gary, but welcome to Australia.
Arvos after this continues.
Thanks for watching. Now, if you want more, subscribe to this channel on YouTube or hit up SEN Football on both Instagram and or TikTok.